as the church has grown, and as it grows, you become a bigger target. Everybody's got an opinion about what you do, even when they have no idea who you are. And you can get so wrapped up in that interior mind game and the continual rumination and the anxious thoughts and even like the depressive tendencies of feeling like Elijah in the cave. You just had this great victory and you're confronting the prophets of Baal, and now you're like, God, just take me home. I don't even want to live. And it's so interesting because even in the book of James, it says, but Elijah was a man with a nature like ours.
Yep.
And I think sometimes,
like us.
like I've read that verse and I'm like, yeah, just like us. Like we're going to call down fire, just like us. We're going to prophesy, just like us. We're going to do miracles. But I'm like, look at the other side of the humanity of Elijah. His tendency to go into the cave after a great victory and be like, why am I even doing this? Nobody is with me. I'm the only one left. Just take me home. And I go like, I think I resonate more with the book of James in the cave context than I do the highlight moments of calling down fire on the prophets of Baal. And I think for me, one thing that I've noticed is that as our circle of influence has grown, my circle of relationships has shrunk. And not like in an exclusionary way, like, oh man, we're too cool for people now, and we're on a different level, and I can't associate with you unless you're verified on Instagram. No, not like that, but like I've really had to become clinical about guarding the voices that I give permission to speak into the direction of my heart, because I am driven almost purely as a relational person. I love hanging with you and hanging with others and being with friends and chopping it up, and I don't do well like just on my own or by myself. I'm created as a relational connector. But if I'm not clinical about stewarding those relationships in a right way, then it's kind of like your yes isn't yes, your no isn't no, you're unstable in all your ways. You fall victim to the guidance of 1,000 voices. And for me, I've had to learn the art at choosing the voices that I'm going to give my attention to, because the reality is your life moves in the direction of your strongest thought. And if your mind is continually absorbed by the critique of culture or the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and I could have done that better and I messed up, and if I could only get this right, really you're setting yourself up for this kind of self-sabotaging mental landscape that only leads in a downward spiral. And I know that can be my tendency unless I become clinical about guarding the voices. And so
really good.
I think my wife and I think we've just had to be like, who are the people that we want to do life with, and who are the people that we want to allow to speak into this? I'm not saying we're surrounding ourselves with fanboys. I mean, my group of friends are the least impressed with me people on planet Earth. When you get home after a sermon, a banger Sunday, it don't matter. Like, you're not Pastor Russ. You're just like, take out the garbage, Russ. And are you ordering pizza, Russ? But like surrounding myself with people who are real and they don't view me through the veneer of what I can do for them or how I can perform on stage, but they just know who I am and they're willing to, the greatest fear in humanity is that if we are truly known, we won't be fully loved. And so developing a group of people who know you and then love you, bumps, bruises, warts, and all, because they know who you really are, that there's like a great comfort and a great safety and a great like sustainability found within that. And I think burnout really doesn't come from working too hard, but instead working in the wrong spirit. And to me, it's the voices that I allow to speak into my interior that shape the attitude of my spirit.
Very good.
And it's easy for me for that attitude to sour if I don't guard and become clinical about those types of voices.
That's really, really good. It's really good. I think with things that you're leading at times, the thing you have to fight against is that God is using you and God's using your voice. But then we have to fight extra hard as leaders to make sure, like you're saying, we have the right people around us. But then also that, not in lip service, but really from our heart, God, this is all about you.
Right.
Unless God builds the house, we labor in vain.
Yep.
And it's an easy thing to quote. It's amazing how quick we can fall prey of that. I think about at times that, God can do anything. Like I love this principle that God doesn't actually need me. But he does want me.
Right.
And that's very relational to me. Like, God could do this, but he wants to involve me in this process. Right. And then I think my role in all that stuff is that when God uses me, that I don't think that it was me, but it was God.
Right.
We were talking last night about that story in Acts chapter 3, about the guy at the gate called Beautiful, that after Peter helps him up, silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have, I give you in the name of Jesus Christ. This man starts to walk, and then Peter takes it as an opportunity to preach, but his whole sermon is about God gave me the faith.
Right,
It was
right.
God's power. It wasn't my power.
Right.
And it makes me think about, I've preached it before, but like that story of Moses and the stick and the staff. And
Yeah.
Moses is so afraid to be used by God. And God's like, well, throw the stick down.
Right,
Throws the
right,
stick down and becomes a
right.
snake. And as it's a snake, it's this supernatural moment. He says,
Right.
pick it back up and it becomes a stick again.
Right, right.
And if you follow that story, that staff and that stick is a symbol of Moses' supernatural leadership in that time. That's what he parts the Red Sea with. That's what he shows up with the 10 plagues. That's how he guides. But I think the real trick for all of us is after God uses you in some supernatural way, after God flows through you, you preach something, you say something, can you go back to being a stick?
Right.